consequences before you go and do something.
Are you surprised by the level of violence after these football games?
Not really, no. Not very stuff that gets shouted at each other.
We'll chant a soldier's song. It is old, but it is beautiful, and its colours they are fine. It was worn.
I hate it. I hate it. It gets us really mad. That's how people get hurt. That's how people end up getting murdered. That's a cause of it. They come out of the grounds, it hates building up in you, you're getting really, really mad, and it gets to the stage where you're saying to yourself, if first Rangers fan I see, I'm just going to run up, header him.
The sash my father wore.
Rangers is the only club in Scotland to have set up a sectarianism and racism monitoring group. We were invited to one of their fortnightly meetings. One of the items on the agenda was a debrief on the Old Firm game in January, which we'd secretly filmed at.
Policy of plainclothes stewards. Broadly speaking, I'm pleased to say that the behaviour was very good.
Well, admittedly there was no violence, but could this really have been the same game that we attended? We managed to capture on camera numerous Rangers supporters giving Nazi salutes and singing sectarian songs.
I have said on many occasions that I don't think we really have a huge racist problem in the west of Scotland. I don't think we have a huge sectarian problem, but we do sometimes have a problem of big mouth, and that's what the 90-minute bigot tends to be, is someone who's shouting something loud, but that he doesn't really mean it.
Well, I think when a young man can have his throat cut and bleed to death just because of the colour of a scarf or a top he's wearing, that's not 90-minute bigotry. That's a lifetime of bigotry and several generations of bigotry just demonstrating itself. And it's certainly not just a 90-minute episode.
That's it in a nutshell, really.
The violent aftermath of the Old Firm match last week pushed crisis-hit hospitals to the verge.
One nurse said that Sunday night, like any other Old Firm day, was like a bloodbath. Statistics just...
A spokesman said the incidents after Saturday's game were horrendous and show once again the desperate need for urgent action.
What action would you take against a fan who's been deemed to be singing or chanting something which is unacceptable in the club's eyes, something sectarian?
We pursue it as vigorously as the law permits. If that points us toward a season ticket holder or a supporter who's been, first of all, charged with sectarian behaviour, we suspend his entry to the ground, take away his season ticket. And if he's convicted of sectarian behaviour, we can take away the ticket, and we do so, and that's an indefinite suspension.
How many people have you taken that action against?
This year, one, because, as I said, only one conviction has been achieved in the courts of sectarian behaviour. Have you lived in Glasgow 20, 30, 40 years ago? There were hundreds of arrests at games, and fighting would break out in the terracing, and bottles would be thrown. Now, measured in an historical context, I think we've made very considerable strides, and it's Celtic's policy to continue with that effort to try and reduce and, if possible, eliminate sectarian behaviour at Celtic Park.
For 7 years, Rangers have been collecting data on their own offending fans.
We've given 14 life bans, 110 told not to come back, and there's been over 1,200 warnings. We're working at it.
How many of those numbers were banned or identified for sectarian behaviour?
I cannot be specific on that because you'd have to ask Lawrence that, who I believe you've interviewed.
I've asked him and he can't answer that question either.
Well, if you want us to go and find out before you put this programme, we'll give you the exact number, but I'm sure there was a vast majority would be of that.
Do you think it would be worth it for the club to actually try and find out the scale of the problem by trying to identify how many of these fans have committed these
Well, I think I've
offences?
already said to you, we're working around the clock. We can only do so much. It's not just a problem with Rangers and Celtic or football in general. It's a social situation that has been in Scotland for years, which I think has been overblown up.
We asked again for the number of fans penalised by the club for sectarian behaviour. They couldn't establish this, they said, because of data protection. This 16-year-old boy was attacked by Celtic fans as he stood at a bus stop near his home after last week's game.
We've just had a chat there, a young boy, 16,
who to the outside world looks like a Rangers fan. He's wearing red, white and blue from top to toe, and when we uncovered him to expose and examine him, he's wearing a Celtic top underneath. Now that wouldn't have been seen by a passerby, but he's absolutely determined it's a supporters issue. He thinks he was attacked because of the colours he wears.
Policing last weekend's Old Firm match was a major operation. With 60,000 fans expected to attend, it's treated as a Category A major incident. There'll be more than 500 officers involved in policing it. Now they also have the added burden of having to enforce the new law on bigotry.
People often refer to this 90-minute bigot. Well, whether you're a 90-minute bigot or a bigot 24 hours a day, if you come and commit a religious prejudice crime at a football match, our view, my view, is that you should be arrested, and that's the stance we've taken. We cannot just simply say too many people are doing it, it's too hard, I'm going to turn a blind eye. We have to go in and take some form of action, and I suppose perhaps go for those who are the worst offenders, those who are the most obvious, those who are the most outrageous, those who are the ringleaders, and that type of thing.
And you come and take your seats.
One group of football fans who won't see any of this are the 30 youngsters from the Sense Over Sectarianism project. They change into their team strips after they arrive at the stadium because it's too dangerous for them to travel in their colours. They're also segregated from the crowd for their own safety and watch the game in one of the club's canteens.
It's been a fairly typical morning for an Old Firm match. There's been 2 arrests so far.
And what were they arrested for?
For a breach of the peace with a religious prejudice attached to that.
And that was already this morning?
Yeah, just in the stadium, just before kick-off, yeah.
And do you anticipate there'll be many more?
Well, I hope not. I hope everybody listens to what the clubs have told them.
We are the Valley Boys!
In total, there were 30 arrests after the game. 12 for sectarian offences, 1 for racism.
You can either sit on your backside and do nothing about it and accept that nothing will ever change, or you can try and change attitudes by encouraging the next generation, because that's the real focus here, the next generation, a different set of attitudes. It's far more tolerant and understanding, and therefore reduces the amount of violence and intimidation that takes place.
The political will is there, so too is the law. But what of the clubs? How they exercise their considerable influence over their support could be a major factor in determining when Scotland will finally be rid of its secret shame.
You have the drama of the game itself and the atmosphere. And yes, if you ignore the specific sentiment, if you ignore the bigoted vocabulary, yes, it's an exciting environment. But my point is, down the nexus chain, there is death at the end of it. You have the passion, you have the tribalism, you have the aggro out in the street, you have the policing, you have the fighting, and down the line, you have tragedy.
What kind of assaults have you seen this evening?
At least 1, 2, 3 people have been slashed in the face. A barmaid who was injured got caught in the crossfire. So there are a mixture of people who've been picked out because they're an obvious sectarian target, and other people are just innocent bystanders, people even just at their work getting injured.
Now, it's still quite early, it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You've obviously been on shift for a number of hours, but you've got the rest of the night. How do you expect the evening to pan out?
Well, it's difficult to give precise figures. We've got a list here from the computer, and we know we've had 14 assaults in before midnight. And that's a high number for a weekend. There are also 21 other injuries. Once again, that's a profile of 20 to 40-year-old males. So there could be assaults that have been hidden. At the end of the day, you could be talking about 40 patients have all come here as a result of sectarian problems.